Hey guys, I just wanted to do my review of the Game of Thrones Season 6 premiere, The Red Woman. So, basically the episode opens up with the camera pans at Castle Black on Jon Snow's body. He is, in fact, still dead. But luckily, thanks to some loyalists, including his direwolf Go, in addition to Sir Davos and some other loyalists, including Dolorous Ed, they find his body and bring it up to a storeroom. And Ed leaves to go get assistance, and Sir Davos is desperate to stall Sir Alistair and the Night Watch mutineers, who threaten blood if they don't leave the room by nightfall. And has no problem confessing to the rest of the Night's Watch and everybody else in Castle Black that he was in fact responsible for leading the mutiny against him, because he let they killed him for basically letting the wildlings into his kingdom, as as they mentioned in season 5, in order to form an alliance against the White Walkers and fight them off. It also reveals at the end of the episode that the Red Woman, Melisandre, turns out to be a centuries-old woman, because the necklace she's wearing and her magic is being used to conceal her true age, and it seems like she's lost faith because of her. She envisioned Jon Snow as being the one at fighting the battle against the White Walkers, and now she's starting to believe that her vision was false. But at first, when you're watching the episode, you feel like the whole suspense from last year about is Jon Snow dead? Is he not dead? Just seemed like a cheap way to and then showing that he's still dead by the episode it seems like a cheap way to keep the drum up interest for the new season. But it looks like they might just stretch out the arc in terms of her vision is still probably right, and then they'll probably just bring him back maybe I don't know, by the end of the season or later down the line. I mean, who knows? And also, Ramsay is still mourning the death of Miranda, even though she wants her fed to the. Even though she said he basically wants her fed to the dogs. And Roose still warns them that despite their victory against Stannis, that they still have to deal with the Lannisters. And marrying Sansa is still their best chance of uniting the North against them. And if Ramsay doesn't get her back, then Roost's illegitimate son gets to be the next heir. So Sansa and Theon are trying to evade the hounds. Theon has to convince Sansa to swim across a freezing river, and they eventually get cornered. And even though Theon tries to create a diversion and try to convince Sansa to go to Castle Black and get to Jon Snow, they're cornered by the Bolton soldiers, and then are rescued by Brienne and Pod, who pledges her loyalty once again to Sansa, and this time accepts. And Cersei sees a ship arriving at King's Landing. One of the life rafts contains Jaime Lannister, and she can tell by the look on his face and also the corpse that is covered in a yellow blanket that they realize that their niece/daughter Myrcella is dead. And she starts to believe that maybe a prophecy she was told from a witch was true, and she's mourning how she feels like she was so pure. She was talking about how Myrcella was so pure and nothing like her, and that by raising somebody so pure that she wouldn't feel like such a monster, and that would give her some kind of redemption. But it feels like some prophecy she was told about was coming true about all of her children dying, and Jaime just threatens to revenge against anybody who's taken everything from them. And Marjorie Tyrell is still in captivity for covering up the fact that her brother was gay, along with her brother, who's in prison because he was gay. by the Faith Militant, and they still try to get like a confession out of her. And after conversing with the High Sparrow, she still won't budge. And back in Dorne, after they learn of Myrcella's death, basically, Princess Doran and Arya are murdered by the Sand Snakes, and they apparently started a coup, and now they're taking over, planning to take over Dorne. Well, the bodyguard Arya is murdered, and the prince is killed by a spirit of the back by one of the other sand snakes. While they're on board a ship that was bringing Jaime back to King's Landing. And Meereen, after the whole battle in which Khaleesi's flew away on Drogon, they observed that her enemies are growing, and it turns out that the harbor was somebody set fire to the harbor, and now Tyrone and Varys can't get back to Westeros anytime soon. And then we have Jorah and Diaro still continuing the search for Khaleesi's, but of course she's been captured by the Dothraki, who's now led by Khal Moreau, while they're hostile towards her, by telling them that she's Drogo's widow, he's basically told that it's custom to take the widows of the dead Khals to the temple to live out the rest of their lives. And basically back in Braavos, because Arya Stark is still struggling with her blindness because of an assassination because she violated the terms of the Faceless Man for killing Ser Meryn, and even though she's now begging for money, there's this woman who hands her a bow staff and starts beating the crap out of her, and it says "I'll see you," and trying to goad her into fighting, and she's about as successful as you would expect her to be, and she says, "Oh, I'll see you tomorrow." And it basically foreshadows that it looks like, in spite of her blindness, that they're going to try to turn Arya Stark into the Daredevil in the sense of Game of Thrones at this point. So, there's a lot of good setup. There's definitely a lot of good setup. I like where the season's going, and it seemed like it's a little bit easier to follow, just because they're yeah, this review is a little bit haphazard, but it's going to be a little bit easier to follow, just because there are fewer characters now, and so many have been killed off at this point. But how do you guys feel about the episode? Do you feel like it's off to a good start? Are you disappointed about Jon Snow not being resurrected in the first episode? When do you think he's going to be? Here's a better question. And maybe even better yet, when do you think they're going to resurrect Jon Snow? Do you think he's going to be resurrected before the end of the season? Leave your thoughts in the comments down below. If you like this video, like, share, and subscribe. I will try to work on my reviews for Fear the Walking Dead and Once Upon a Time. And stay tuned for my usual reviews throughout the rest of the week, which is going to be harder to do because I've got basically 30 hours of work this week, but I'll do the best I can. So take care, guys.